to offer you this lesson from Unity of the Keys Spiritual Center.
Unity teaches us to see life through the lens of spiritual awakening. We experience external reality not as good or bad or right and wrong when we see things with spiritual vision, but we see them awake in our perception. When we fall asleep, it's like we're fighting demons, but the demons are in us. One of my teachers used to say, if you're blaming someone else, you need to change the prescription on your glasses because you're just cursing the mirror. There's a story about a saint and a dog going into the Hall of Mirrors. The dog goes into the Hall of Mirrors and sees a dog, and then another dog, and then another dog, and the dog is barking and afraid and angry and upset and dies of a heart attack because the dog believes that there are all these horrible dogs in this room with him. The saint walks into the Hall of Mirrors and sees a saint, and another saint, and another saint, and another saint. It is in complete bliss as he walks through the Hall of Mirrors. In this life, many of the teachings are done with mirrors. And the outer world is fleeting, just like the images that the dog sees of himself. Nothing we see is permanent. On earth, the only constant is change. So it's important to realize it's a fundamental teaching in Unity that the external world is our source for transformation. It's not here to satisfy us. Unity teaches us to know ourselves as the underlying reality, the witness. Then and only then can true satisfaction arise. Silent Unity, the first 24-hour prayer ministry in the U.S., began in 1886 when Myrtle Fillmore, a highly educated woman, a wife, a mother, and a former school teacher, was told she'd die very soon of incurable tuberculosis. But she found that there was an intrinsic wholeness in her, even in the midst of this illness. And she was able to contact that divine intelligence and unleash that power within her of unshakable goodness. She did it through silent meditation and affirmative prayer, individually and with a small group of friends who originally called themselves the Society of Silent Help. They met in her living room, and they committed to pray for anyone, anytime, for anything. And then, out of that, out of Myrtle's transformation, it took her 2 years to be proclaimed free of tuberculosis, which is unheard of in those days. But it took her many years to be free from illness and to be well, because the absence of illness isn't wellness. You know, it's a continuum. And there's a far greater health that awaits us. One of my current teachers says, peace? Why are you all wanting peace? That's not enough. It's okay to want peace if you're living in Lebanon, but go for bliss. Go for whole beingness. Go for joy. Go for vitality. The core practice in Unity is affirmative thinking and silence. They go hand in hand. The late, great James Dillard Freeman, who was the director of Silent Unity and our poet laureate, was once asked to describe unity, and he said this: "One word that describes unity is prayer. Unity began with prayer. Unity depends on prayer. Unity grows by prayer. The unity way to God is through prayer and meditation. But this does not mean that through prayer alone, any of us will be transformed. Let me paraphrase an old Bible quote. Prayer without works is dead. We can't cheat on our taxes, become a slum landlord, extort money from the innocent immigrants, and become prosperous. Prosperity and abundance are not monetary. They're not things. The endless pursuit of happiness through accumulation of outer things will never lead to peace or happiness. Our co-founders lived and demonstrated the things that they believed in. And sometimes Charles and Myrtle Fillmore would spend hours and hours in silence. Charles Fillmore was known to just go into silence at any moment. My friend, Reverend Rosemary Fillmore Ray, his granddaughter, thought every grandfather did that. And one of her childhood friends, she remembers waking up to the idea that not every grandfather was like hers. And her friend, they were about 10 at the time, said, "What is he doing?" And she said, "He's going into the silence. Like, what do you think he's doing, you know?" And he would just do that. He would just go into meditation wherever he was. So the Fillmores, in some ways, were unusual. They built this incredible ministry in this place called Unity Village. And it is in Kansas City. So they were vegetarians in the heart of the meat and dairy industry, in the barbecue capital of the world. They built, go back to the Unity picture. Go back to the, okay. They built, this is a picture of Silent Unity and the Unity campus, okay? So during the Depression, they built an Italian Renaissance architecture building where a carved door could take a year to complete. Every place at Unity Village that you look is a creative expression of the outworking of the prayers and the purpose that they were living. They were not living a dry, textual kind of life. They had tent gatherings where people would come on horseback and have parties and sing and dance in these tents at night. They had people just show up and offer to paint the ceiling like the Sistine Chapel in the Silent Unity building. So when you walk around Unity, you feel this prosperity. You feel this abundance and creativity. They were part of the Transcendentalist movement. Do you know what that means, Transcendentalist? It means transcending the physical. It means emphasis on the God in us and in nature. Emerson and Thoreau and those people were their teachers. So think about this. They were transcendentalists in the middle of the Bible Belt. They were prohibitionists surrounded by moonshine. They stood humbly, and sometimes they demonstrated with signs. Charles Fillmore was known to be on a street corner in the beginnings of AA, encouraging people to stop drinking, because he saw that really as a problem for a lot of people. So although Unity never gives an opinion on political or social issues and tries to stick to the universal principles in all the religions, that doesn't mean that the people in Unity are not active. and standing for what they believe in and doing things to make a change in the world. They built a 24-hour positive thought affirmative prayer ministry where over the door before you go in is a beautiful painting that says, "It is not I, but the Christ within that does this work." And so when you walk in as a prayer worker in Silent Unity, you take on that consciousness of the Christ. And it's we. It's not I. It's we. So when someone calls and you answer the phone, how may we pray with you? And if you call back, you don't get the same person, because it's not about the personality. It's about the principle. If you were to come to me for counseling one day, and we prayed about something that was heavy on your heart, and you went home and you came back, you'd just get the next person that was available to meet with you. You wouldn't get me again, because it's not me. It's the Christ within me that's doing this work. And that is the philosophy to this day. Unity in the deepest sense of the word is a gift in universal truth, in God realization. And Unity Village is an outward manifestation of this movement, and it's still evolving today. When I was younger and I went to Unity Village for the first time, I was really enamored with the rose garden. I just thought that was the most beautiful rose garden I had ever seen, and that was before I went to Scotland or England or other places around this world and studied permaculture and saw roses at the Findhorn community in Scotland that were to the rooftops, and came home and grew roses to my own rooftops and knew that, you could pray with roses, you could speak to roses, and they would grow for you in a natural way without all those petrochemicals. So about 10 years ago, I took my friend Ray to Unity Village right after we had come back from Scotland, and I went, "Oh my God, these are horrible!" The rose garden was all sprayed and had all that white dust all over it, and they were all dying, and they had a fountain that was all chlorinated, and I thought, oh my God, this is horrible. So that's changing too, actually, because Unity began as organic gardens and a farm and apple orchards. And that's what the Fillmores were all about, being vegetarians and having fresh food and growing our own food. And then we took a turn to the left and we became a much more different kind of village and a more corporate village. And we're taking another turn now. And they have a farmer's market at the village, and they're bringing back the organic gardening, and they have a vision for ecology for Unity Village. And so even at Unity Village, we are demonstrating we can change. We can evolve and we can devolve, and we can evolve again, just like the rest of the world, right? There's nothing to fear. Nothing is impossible with God. No thing is impossible with God. Are you awake? Yes. Are you content, fulfilled, fully integrated, spiritually mature, doing the work that you do well, and that you are called to do and nobody else can do for you? And if you don't do it, it's lost to the world. Your sole purpose. Are you living your unique spiritual vision? Unity motivates us to have union with our own soul. We can easily go through life with energy being wasted on habitual thoughts, habitual patterns, opinions that we're totally unconscious about and not our own anyway. We take them so seriously. We have strong emotional reactions on their behalf, and they mean nothing. They are simply ingrained thought forms we've learned from our culture, our parents, our fears. Still, we hold on to them and we make ourselves miserable, rethinking, resending, and reliving the same thoughts. Watch our television and observe it as if you are the witness, and notice the same thinking pattern there. And then notice if that is part of you too. If you've taken that in and you're putting that out. One of the things that never ceases to surprise me is how we parrot some of the things we hear on television. One person made a comment about one of the political figures about a few months ago and said that they make really unusual hand gestures, too expressive with their hands. And that week, I heard a half a dozen people who had previously adored this person say, you know, I'm not for him anymore. I don't think I could go through a year of just watching those hands move. And I thought, oh my goodness, we're even not going to elect a politician because of the way they move their hands. How mature is that? Unity helps us by helping us to learn how to watch our thoughts. And by affirming what is real and true and positive and uplifting, and by being silent enough to watch what's in there, to watch what goes by, we can begin to free ourselves from everything we think. And as we do that, as we quiet and stop and notice and affirm and reorient and think differently, our life and our health blossoms. And eventually, we have the ability to go, no thought at all. To be a clear mirror for others in our world. To not have an opinion, but to accept whatever comes and to see what's really true about everyone. Eventually, if we practice enough silence, if we learn to witness our own mind, we will experience that peace that passes all understanding, and we will attain bliss, happiness beyond anything we have ever experienced. So today I offer you a gift of a unique daily word. How many of you have ever been on the Daily Word mailing list? Okay, just a few of you. So if you're not currently on the Daily Word mailing list, there's a little card in here and you can join Daily Word just because you have this little thing for $10 a year. And get Daily Word and all their wonderful pamphlets and everything sent to you. But here's what I think would be great for us to do. First, read the first half a dozen pages at least 3 times. Really. Because it tells you Unity's 5-step method of prayer, and it also tells you how to use the daily word. There's a reason it's written in the way that it is, and that it has the affirmation at the top and a scripture at the bottom, and then a series of ideas about inner peace. That's the first one. So here's The practice is that I'm holding these thoughts with everybody else in this community for 30 days. We're of one thought. So there's power in that. The entire movement was built on that people are praying and thinking these thoughts all over the world, millions of people. And that strengthens in us our capacity to demonstrate that. Because we're all one. Unity is not just about oneness with a God out there. It's also oneness with God in each one of us. So, can you commit to 30 days of practice with me? Okay? So every day for the next 30 days, no matter what your practice is, let's do this daily word in the way that it was intended. And know that this group of people is doing it with me. And there's one more thing I'd like you to do. Look in the mirror. Look into your own eyes and say, I love you. 3 times. I love you. I love you. Like you really mean it with feeling. And I'm going to take good care of you in this lifetime. Can you do that? Promise? Try? If you hold these thoughts for 30 days and you do your mirror work, you will be well on the way to being the saint and not the fearful dog. Because you are made in the image and likeness of God. And you are loved. And you are precious. And you are unique in all the world. You're a living soul. You are the beloved. Thank you.